Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. As the title states, we shall be analyzing Quentin Tarantino and his time-traveling Chanel bag in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now check this out. Yes, this is a little bit shady of me, but guess what? 1968, 2001 A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick releases one of history's most important movies. Why will this be important when we're talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Chanel? Stay tuned and you'll find out. So here we have one of the moments when Sharon Tate is in the movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There's a whole segment, I think about 10 minutes of the movie. She's going to the movies to see herself in the movies. And we know how Tarantino is a fanatic of attention to detail in his movies. He can go really obsessive into the details to get everything right. Chronologically right, the time right, time specificity, details have to be from that particular time. If the elements in the movie are not from the 60s, because that movie does play around 1968, late 60s, so it's the same time as Kubrick was releasing 2001 A Space Odyssey. That's when the entire, without giving away too many spoilers, that's when the entire setup happens for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well. So there's a scene when Tate goes to the movies to see herself act in that movie, in her own movie, and she's going to the movies with a Chanel bag with a 255, which today we call a reissue. But back in the day, it was just called Chanel's bag. So in the late 60s, this bag was already over 10 years old. Now the problem is, you see, what we have here is a Chanel 2.55 reissue bag that Lagerfeld brought back from the archives, from the Chanel archives, back in 2005. In fact, the first re-edition that came out in 2005, when you would open up the first fold, second fold here, mine are all protected, this is archival reasons, here there would be an actual date printed, etched, well not etched, kind of would be like imprinted in the leather with the date, the 2005 date. So the 55 and then the 05. So this is the reissue. Now, one of the reasons the reissue is called a reissue is because for a certain period of time it was discontinued. When Lagerfeld brought it back, he wanted to add a touch of poetry to this bag. So he stated in the press release that he found the 255 bag, or rediscovered it, in one of the boxes from the Chanel archives. When he opened it, it was all squished up. It was literally flattened. It was flattened. Literally, we're talking like this. But it was out of jersey, not leather. He was fascinated by that fold and decided to, when bringing out and producing the bag, reproducing it, calling it the reissue 255, to bring it out folded. So this is an extra step that the artisans and the ladies and gentlemen that work in the Chanel ateliers, they have to basically go one step further in folding the leather to create this fold almost like an envelope, which is very elegant. No other bag in the world does this. It keeps the bag also closer to your body when you're wearing it. But what is very important to state is that in the 50s and 60s, and 70s, including, of course, the time when Tarantino's film is playing, the 255 bag was not folded at the bottom. This is something that came in 2005. This fold here came in 2005. In the 60s, let me show you. So this is the exact same bag used in, sorry, not the exact same bag, the exact same model used in the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood movie. It is the classic size reissue 255 bag. But the reissue didn't exist in the 60s, dear Quentin. It was just the 255 bag. Now I have a mini version here because it's easier to fold. So how did the bag look in the 60s? Well, it was flat. So this actually was not folded. Not at all. There was no reminiscence of it. It was completely flat, like this. So, if Miss Tate actually went to the movies in the 60s with a 255 Chanel bag, it would have been flat. There would have been no fold, nothing. And Ariane Phillips, who also styles a lot of Madonna projects, was credited as the costume designer for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Well, Missy, you did a very poor job because you didn't do your homework. That was a very quick, it's so easy to get a reissue 255 bag, but to not know this, that this fold didn't exist in the 60s, I mean, for somebody who's, of course, so much into studying and analyzing Chanel, and I mean, for anybody who knows anything a little bit about these big fashion houses' histories, would know that this bag never, ever had a fold down here at the bottom in the 60s. Never. It's a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Not just that. Second mistake is Chanel's bags always had this champagne colored gold in the 60s. Actually, most of them also had a jersey running through them through one side to make them more comfortable for the shoulders of the person wearing them. But there were also cases of chains without the jersey material, so we can let that one pass. But of course, this is the chain we see in the movie. This aged gold was not used in the 60s. So this is the chain they should have used, and the bottom should have been flat, not folded. Let me show you this bag. So this is a timeless classic bag that actually Lagerfeld brought out with the double C lock and the double flap in the 80s. But you can see what I mean with the flat bottom. This one still has a flat bottom. It's not been folded. It's completely flat. So this is how the 255 also used to be in the 60s, in the time frame when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is supposed to be playing. So you have the double flap. Okay, it was a bit more squished at the top, obviously. This is a different type of bag. It's a further development of the 255, different lock. Also, be sure to check out, I'll post all the links in the description box down below, more about the history of these bags, about the details that go into making them, about the preservation, unboxing, and reviews of all of these bags. So be sure to check all of that right now after this video, either in the card section at the end of this video or in the links that are now at the bottom here in the description box. And you could say, oh, Dacob, why are you so obsessed with these details? Well, because if you're going to showcase a very important historical, this is one of the most important bags in history, in terms of history of design. It is the quintessential, this is the holy grail of all bags. It's the Chanel 255 bag. If you're going to show it, and you show it just for a split second, and it's gone, it's not on screen anymore, you could let it pass somehow. But they focus on this bag. They don't just follow the actress walking into the theater. They actually, the camera pans and follows a close-up of the bag walking into the cinema. There's a bag, the bag is sitting next to her on an empty chair, and it's filmed in the cinema while she's watching the movie. The bag is following her as she's walking towards the cinema, and it's very present for a long... The bag gets so much playtime. Now, Tarantino has also been quoted in saying that basically all of the footage that he shot for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood will become like something like a 6-episode series for Netflix. Basically, the director's cut becomes I don't know, either a 6-hour movie, or I don't know how long every episode will be. But so could you imagine deciding to cut it as... It's still a long movie. I think about 3 hours. I watched it twice. So, but anyway, I enjoyed the movie. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy the movie. It's just that scene really got me. So if you trim it down so much and you still decide to give that moment so much time in the final cut version where all the other material has been edited out, and you still deemed this particular object worthy of so much airtime, and then do your research. And this is where we get the explanation about 2001: A Space Odyssey. By the way, the hundreds love this place. This is where I bought this one last year. They make some really great collaborations. They made this one with the Stanley Kubrick estate. Anyway, Space Odyssey. So this is a hoodie, by the way, one of my favorite hoodies. Came out at the same time. Stanley Kubrick would have not let that mistake slip. And this is why we're talking about Stanley here. when he decides to go into the future, as was the case with 2001: A Space Odyssey, or in the past, as is the case with, for example, Barry Lyndon, that's attention to detail. And I have the feeling Tarantino was quite rushed in many ways to do this movie. And because, you know, of course, not everybody has the luck that Stanley Kubrick had. Stanley Kubrick was the only, well, rare, but I don't know if he was the only, but one of the very rare few, if not the only, filmmaker to get total carte blanche in terms of time from Warner Brothers to finish a picture. He had no time restraints in finalizing a movie. So you could imagine what that meant in terms of the time that he had at his disposition to really research something into detail and get all the details fine-tuned. Tarantino might have more time limitations, so certain things can slip. But if you're doing design historical, time-specific research on your movie, you don't make mistakes like this. You can't let them happen. I mean, as happy as I was to see the favorite bag, and I have this bag in so many different iterations. I have the classic size, I have the mini, I have an extra mini, like fanny bag version that I wear as a necklace. Then I have this one in ruthenium hardware, one size bigger. It's just my favorite bag. It's a wonderful, wonderful bag. But it is, historically speaking, historically speaking, such an important bag. You cannot allow yourself such a mistake. So that's all I had to say about this. Let me know your thoughts. Check out the movie if you haven't. It's a great movie, by the way. Very entertaining, very strange way of editing. It's a movie you should go to twice, because the first time you expect a lot from it, and you're kind of very aware of everything. You want to see every detail. And once that has passed, you realize it's actually better to go into that movie just relaxed, chill. You could even step out for a second, get yourself a popcorn refill, drink refill, and come back in. It's a chill, type of a hangout, chill type of movie. And if you embrace it as such, then you will have a great time watching it. But in terms of Chanel, and also, at the end credits rolling now, they did roll fast. I did watch it twice, but I did not capture Chanel in the titles, in the end credits. Now, don't take my word for it here, because I would really have to slowly, pause the tag. If once it hits Blu-ray, I'm going to have to get it and go through it to see if Chanel is listed in the end credits, if Chanel gave them the bag. But I do not think that I have seen the Chanel name credited at the end. If the Chanel credit is at the end, somebody send me a screenshot or some sort of proof that it's actually credited. That would be very helpful, because what does this mean? If Chanel really sponsored the movie, and if they knew the context in which the bag would have been used, Chanel would have done their research properly. They would have given them the right time-specific bag. I would hope so. Otherwise, the Chanel, it's a mistake on Chanel's end. If, however, their design team for the movie, the costumes, Ariane, sorry girl, he made a huge mistake there. If you were just given the freedom to buy a bag, or just get one of the bags and use it with the budget of the movie, or use one of yours, or whatever, that was sloppy work. Very, very sloppy work, because it is not historically and time specific. It's as if a bag from 2005 onwards traveled back in time into the 60s and tried to act as if it were a bag from the 60s. Not so cool. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this video. It's a very geeky Chanel video, but I love stuff like this. Sorry, I'm just a geek for my Chanel. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, thumb it up, and let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Also, if you haven't already but do wish to, consider subscribing to my channel here on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Super Dacob all spelled together. Also on Patreon, Super Dacob all spelled together. Thank you so much for the patrons who have pledged already and who get a chance to see exclusive videos or videos that hit Patreon before they hit YouTube, all ad-free. Also, if you wish to ask me questions about pop culture, fashion history, or anything related to whatever you want to talk about, write me at askdacob@gmail.com. And also be sure to check out the first episode of Ask Dacob, which is now on my YouTube channel, so you could go there right now to see what fashion topics I'm talking about with my fellow viewers. The link to that video is in the description box down below, but also in the cards at the end of this video. Thank you guys so much. Until I see you next time, don't ever forget to never give up on love. Bye.